Falaflahiatu, good evening. This is BCN's News Bulletin. A change in yesterday's Assembly meetings, business paper brought the budget in rather than the proposed order. Premier Toketalangi introduced the budget for 2013 to 2014 as balanced. He said he is pleased with the budget for infrastructure. Second is the transformation, and thirdly, donor funds. Premier Talangi said the government will expect to submit a supplementary appropriation budget later in the year. Concerns from the opposition argued that the late submission of the budget into the House, amongst other issues. The voting to move the budget to the second reading received 10 votes in support, 3 opposed, with 1 member abstaining. The budget has now been referred to the Public Expenditure Committee. The new legislative meeting will continue next Monday with the original order of business designed for yesterday's meeting. The non-communicable disease crisis in the region had Pacific Health Ministers reaffirm their support for the vision of healthy islands in a meeting held in Apia, Samoa last week. The NCD Crisis in the Pacific was recognized in Honiara in 2011 and declared shortly after by the Pacific Island Forum Leaders Meeting. Niue's Health Minister and Director of Health were present to give a report on Niue's position following an island-wide WHO STEP survey held in 2011 that surveyed those 15 years and above. The survey, funded by the WHO, AusAid and NZAid, looked at 4 main NCD risk factors such as poor nutrition, physical inactivity, smoking and alcohol abuse. Niue's Health Minister Honourable Joan Vidiamu says that there are continuing concerns about the negative impacts of non-communicable diseases on individuals, their families, communities and nations. Large amounts of funding have also been poured into awareness and campaign activities, but it is hard to monitor the effectiveness of these activities. Minister Vidiamu stated that people identified to have diabetes, high blood pressure and other NCDs need to utilize local health services to monitor and control their ailments rather than waiting for conditions to worsen. Outcomes from the Apia meeting have been compiled into a communique that will be presented to leaders at the next Pacific Island Forum Leaders meeting due to be held in the Marshall Islands in the next few months. The Joint Disaster Risk Management and Climate Change meeting was officially concluded by Inia Siriratu, Fiji's Minister for Disaster Management, yesterday in Nandi, in which she made a statement saying, "A strategic policy and a strong political will and commitment are the key tenets of realizing the vision of integrating climate change and disaster response." Echoing the sentiments of an earlier speaker, Director for SPREP, Dr. David Shepherd, said that the discussions were historic, precedent-setting and an example for the rest of the world. He said any changes to existing systems of work can potentially seem threatening, and there have been some discussions about implications of an integrated strategy for issues like funding and the roles and responsibilities of different agencies at national and regional levels. He also said a key lesson to draw from is that integration is not a threat, it's an opportunity. Niue was represented by Secretary of Government Richard Hipper at the high-level meeting, and we will bring you more on Niue's contribution and outcomes at the meeting, as well as the national progress in the disaster risk management and climate change developments. The EDF-10 project to renew power cables around the island and the fibre optic cabling project has now made it to the village of Mutalo, but work has been halted temporarily. Director of Telecom, Tutuli Haka, says that work has been postponed briefly to enable Telecom to seek further funds for cabling. In the initial fibre optic cabling plan, Liku and La Kepa were not going to get fibre optic as it was outside of the scope of the project. However, Telecom is now looking to source further funds to get more fibre optic cabling before work can resume within the next few weeks. Mr. Hacker says that the logic behind the move is to continue cabling works in line with EDF-10 to avoid having to cut into the road again and to have roads resealed all at once. In the meantime, both departments are working on individual department projects that have been on the backbench since the EDF10 and fibre optic cabling projects began last year. Niue Power staff have time to work on a project to make a switch for overhead power lines in between Tuila and Funuakula to be laid underground, whilst Telecom have been able to respond to some faults to some of their equipment. Today, the world marks World Population Day that has been observed on the 11th of July since 1989 to raise awareness of global population issues. This year highlights the issue of adolescent pregnancy, calling on governments to take measures to enable girls to make responsible life choices and realize their potential. The United Nations estimates that there are 7.2 billion people and counting on planet Earth, with a projection that by the year 2050, the world population will reach 9.6 billion. Whilst the rest of the world deals with issues of increasing populations, Niue continues to face challenges with population retention. According to statistical figures, Niue reached its highest point in 1966 with a population of about 5,000 people, a figure that has dropped to about 5,000 by 1974 and continued to decrease and fluctuate over the years. At the last Niue Island census held in 2011, the island's residential population on census night stood at 1,611. And ending this news bulletin, Rugby Sevens competition is now confirmed for Saturday as a new club joined the tournament. However, Hakupu, the new entry, will take on Alofi in the first match of the day, followed by Avaseli and Southern Marlins. Second round will see Tuapa face off Alofi Makos, whilst Southern Marlins take on Hakupu. The rankings leading to the second round on Saturday has Tuapa in first place with 13 points, followed by Avaseli with 11 points, third Southern Marlins with 9 points, and Alofi Makos with 8 points, and Hakupu in last place without a point, not having participated in the start of the season for this year. That concludes our news bulletin for tonight. Don't forget to check out the Niue High School Sports Day that was postponed earlier this week. That will be held tomorrow morning.